Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that nearly 40% of everything you do, every action, every choice, every reaction wasn't a conscious decision at all, but an automatic program your brain had been running in the background. Sounds scary, right? But it's true. From the moment we open our eyes to the moment we fall asleep, our lives are powered by invisible loops, tiny routines so deeply ingrained that we don't even realize they're controlling our day. And the most surprising part, these loops are running our relationships, our success, our health, our happiness, quietly shaping our destiny without asking for permission. This is the unbelievable science behind habits, and once you understand it, you'll never look at your daily life the same way again. The truth is, your brain is obsessed with saving energy. It hates working hard when it doesn't have to. So it constantly looks for patterns, actions you repeat again and again so it can convert them into automatic behaviors. This process is called chunking and your brain loves it. That's why habits form so quickly and feel almost impossible to break, because once a behavior becomes automatic, the brain stops paying attention. It simply hits play and the loop begins. Scientists call this loop the cue, routine, reward cycle. It's like a three-step formula your brain follows every time a habit forms. The cue is the trigger, something that tells your brain it's time to start this routine. It could be waking up, hearing your phone ping, feeling stressed, or even walking into the kitchen. The routine is the action you take. Grabbing your phone, brushing your teeth, lighting a cigarette, opening the fridge. And the reward is the hit your brain gets at the end. Relief, pleasure, satisfaction, or comfort. That reward tells your brain, hey, that felt good. Let's remember this for next time. And so the loop becomes stronger and stronger until it becomes automatic. But here's the shocking part. Your brain cannot tell the difference between a good habit and a bad habit. It doesn't think in terms of right or wrong. It only thinks in terms of efficiency. If a behavior saves energy and gives a reward, the brain locks it in. That's why bad habits stick so tightly to us, and why good habits feel so hard in the beginning. Good habits usually require effort before reward, while bad habits give reward instantly. And for the brain, instant reward is irresistible. The real power comes when you start spotting these cues and routines in your own life. Think about this for a moment. Why do you reach for your phone first thing in the morning? Why do you crave something sweet after dinner? Why do you scroll endlessly even when you know you should stop? It's because the cue triggers the routine and the reward seals the deal. Once you identify your loop, you gain control. You begin to see that habits don't happen to you. You create them even if unknowingly. And that's where the magic lies. Understanding the science of habits isn't just about knowing how the brain works. It's about taking back the driver's seat of your own life. If habits control almost half of what you do, then learning how they form gives you the power to redesign your days, your mindset, your results, and your future. Once you learn how to break the loop or build a new one, you're no longer a prisoner of your past patterns. You become the architect of your future behavior, and that is where true transformation begins. Now that you understand how habits actually form inside the brain, let's go one step deeper into something even more fascinating. The idea of keystone habits. These are not ordinary habits. They're the kind of habits that once formed trigger a chain reaction of positive changes across your entire life. Think of them like dominoes. You push one and suddenly 10 more fall effortlessly without you touching them. And what's crazy is that most people don't even realize which of their habits have this hidden power. A keystone habit is powerful because it influences your mindset, your confidence, your discipline, and even the way you make decisions. For example, when someone starts exercising regularly, they often begin eating healthier without trying. They start sleeping better, feeling more confident, and sometimes even performing better at work. That one habit quietly reshapes other areas of life because it changes how you see yourself. The moment you start doing something consistently, your identity begins to shift. You go from "I wish I was disciplined" to "I am someone who takes care of myself." And once identity changes, behavior follows naturally. The same happens with habits like waking up early, reading daily, or planning your day before it begins. These habits create mental structure. They give your brain a sense of control and clarity. And the better your mindset becomes, the easier it is for other positive habits to form. That's why keystone habits are considered the foundation stones of personal transformation. They're not just actions, they're catalysts. But the real question is, how do you identify your keystone habits? The answer lies in self-observation. Start by asking yourself what one habit, if I improved it, would automatically improve many other parts of my life. For students, it might be studying for just 30 minutes every day. For someone struggling with stress, it could be meditating or journaling. For someone trying to break laziness, it could be walking for 20 minutes daily. The key is to find a habit that builds confidence and momentum. Here's something interesting. Keystone habits don't need to be big. In fact, the smaller they are, the easier they stick. A 5-minute morning routine, drinking water right after waking up, or simply making your bed. These tiny actions create psychological wins. And once your brain gets used to these wins, it starts craving bigger ones. Momentum becomes your new fuel. Another thing about keystone habits is that they reveal your hidden potential. When you start following one positive habit, no matter how small, it sends a message to your subconscious mind. I am capable of change. And that belief alone is enough to transform your behavior in other areas. It's like planting a seed that eventually grows into a tree with many branches. And the best part, you don't need to change your entire life overnight. You just need one good habit that sets everything else in motion. When that habit becomes strong, it naturally restructures your daily routine, your thought patterns, and your emotional responses. And slowly, without forcing anything, your life starts moving in the direction you always wanted. That's the hidden beauty of keystone habits. They do the heavy lifting for you quietly, but powerfully reshaping the way you live. By now, you've seen how powerful keystone habits can be. But there's another side of the story that everyone struggles with. The habits we desperately want to break but somehow keep repeating. Bad habits feel like they have a mind of their own. You tell yourself you'll stop scrolling, you'll stop procrastinating, you'll stop eating junk. Yet the moment a trigger appears, you slip right back in. And it's not because you're weak or lazy. It's because bad habits are perfectly designed to satisfy your brain in the fastest way possible. The first step to breaking a bad habit is understanding that it doesn't start with the action. It starts with the cue. Most people try to fight the routine, but that's like trying to stop a moving train with your hands. The real change begins when you identify the moment your brain gets triggered. Is it boredom? Is it stress? Is it being alone? Is it seeing your phone beside you? Every bad habit has a predictable cue. The more clearly you identify it, the more power you gain over it. When you know the cue, you can interrupt the loop before it begins. But even when you identify the cue, habits don't disappear. This is because the reward is still active. Your brain craves something: comfort, entertainment, relief, distraction. And until you replace that reward, the habit will keep returning. You cannot erase a habit. You can only replace the routine attached to the cue. That means if stress makes you reach for junk food, you need a new routine that still gives relief, maybe deep breathing, a glass of water, or a quick walk. If boredom makes you grab your phone, you might replace it with reading 2 pages of a book or writing a quick note. The key is not to remove the loop, but to rebuild it with a better routine. Another major reason bad habits are so hard to break is that they operate on autopilot. The more you repeat them, the stronger the neurological pathway becomes. It's like a road. If you keep walking on the same path, it becomes clear and easy to follow. But if you stop walking on it and start using a new path, slowly the old one fades. That's why consistency matters. Even if replacing a routine feels awkward at first, every attempt weakens the old habit and strengthens the new one. Willpower alone isn't enough to break bad habits. It works for the first few days, maybe a week, but eventually your brain gets tired and falls back into old routines. That's why you need systems instead of willpower. Remove temptations from your environment. Create friction for your bad habits and make good habits easier. For example, if you want to stop scrolling late at night, charge your phone in another room. If you want to stop snacking, don't keep snacks within reach. If you want to stop wasting time, set a timer and break work into small chunks. The easier you make the new routine, the faster the old one dies. There's also an emotional layer to breaking habits. Many habits exist because they are coping mechanisms. People overeat because of stress, overcrawl because of loneliness, overspend because of emptiness. Until you address the emotion beneath the habit, you will keep returning to it. When you recognize the feeling driving your routine, you stop fighting the habit blindly and begin healing the root cause. Breaking a bad habit is not about perfection. It's about awareness and replacement. Once you understand the loop, you're no longer controlled by it. You start making conscious choices. And every conscious choice weakens the cycle, and slowly the habit that once felt impossible to break starts losing its power over your life. Once you understand how to break bad habits, the next natural step is learning how to build good habits that actually stay with you. Most people start new habits with high motivation, New Year resolutions, fresh plans, big goals. But within a few days, that excitement fades and the habit collapses. Not because the habit was wrong, but because the strategy was. Building a habit that lasts is not about doing something huge. It's about designing it in a way that your brain can accept, repeat, and eventually automate. The first rule of building a long-lasting habit is to start small, much smaller than you think you need to. If your goal is to read daily, don't start with 1 hour. Start with 2 minutes. If your goal is to exercise, don't start with a heavy workout. Start with a 5-minute walk. Tiny habits feel almost laughably small, but that's exactly why they work. They don't trigger resistance. They slip past your brain's defense system, and once the habit is established, you can slowly expand it. Small consistency always beats big effort that doesn't last. Another powerful method is habit stacking, connecting a new habit to an old existing one. Your brain already recognizes certain moments as routines, like waking up, brushing your teeth, or sitting at your desk. When you attach a new habit right after an existing one, your brain builds a strong association. For example, after I drink my morning water, I will read 1 page, or after I sit at my desk, I will write for 5 minutes. Over time, the sequence becomes automatic and your new habit starts living inside your old routine. Environment also plays a huge role. You can have the best intentions, but if your surroundings don't support your habit, you'll struggle. Your environment should make good habits easy and bad habits difficult. If you want to drink more water, keep a bottle where you sit. If you want to meditate, keep a mat ready. If you want to work out, put your shoes where you can see them. On the other hand, if you want to reduce distractions, keep your phone away while working. Turn off unimportant notifications or remove apps that steal your attention. Your environment is stronger than your motivation. Then comes the concept of small wins. The human brain is addicted to progress. Even tiny progress releases dopamine, which motivates you to continue. That's why tracking your habits on paper, on an app, or even mentally creates a sense of achievement. When you see a streak building, you don't want to break it. That feeling becomes your fuel. Momentum becomes your motivation. Slowly, repetition shapes your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through. One thing people misunderstand is the difference between motivation and discipline. Motivation is temporary. Discipline is what keeps a habit alive. Good habits grow stronger when you do them, even when you don't feel like it. That doesn't mean forcing yourself harshly. It means keeping the minimum version of your habit alive on difficult days. If you can't read for 20 minutes, read for 2. If you can't exercise fully, stretch for 5 minutes. Never miss twice. Missing once is normal. Missing twice starts a new habit of skipping. Finally, think of habits in cycles. 30-day formation and 90-day solidification. The first month is about establishing the routine. The next 2 months are about strengthening it until it becomes automatic. By the time you complete 90 days, the habit starts becoming a part of who you are, not just something you're trying to do. Good habits are not built by force. They are designed. Once you understand how to create small wins, structure your environment, and build consistent routines, you're no longer fighting your habit, you're guiding it. And when a habit sticks, it becomes the foundation for long-term growth and true transformation. As your good habits begin to take shape, there is a deeper layer that decides whether those habits will truly transform your life or fade away over time. And that layer is belief and identity. Most people think habits are only about action, but action is just the surface. Real lasting change comes from the story you tell yourself about who you are. If your identity doesn't match the habit you're trying to build, the habit will always feel like a fight. But when your identity aligns with your behavior, the habit becomes natural and almost effortless. Belief is the hidden engine behind every successful transformation. You can follow a routine for a few days out of excitement or for a few weeks out of discipline. But without belief, deep internal belief that the new version of you is real, you will eventually slip back to your old patterns. Think about it. If someone who hates running forces themselves to run daily, they'll struggle until they start believing I am a runner. When that belief takes root, the behavior no longer feels forced. It becomes part of their identity. Identity-based habits are powerful because they don't just change what you do, they change who you think you are. When you tell yourself, I'm trying to read more, it feels temporary. But when you shift to I am a reader, the habit becomes emotionally supported. The same goes for I am a healthy person, I am disciplined, or I am someone who keeps promises to myself. Your brain wants to stay consistent with your identity. So when your identity shifts, your behavior naturally follows. But belief doesn't grow automatically. It's built through repeated small actions. Every time you complete a habit, no matter how tiny, you cast a vote for the person you are becoming, and the more votes you cast, the stronger your identity becomes. Soon your behavior and your belief start reinforcing each other. That's when transformation becomes unstoppable. Another powerful tool for building belief is your environment. The people around you, the conversations you hear, the energy you absorb, all of these shape your identity. If you surround yourself with people who think growth is impossible, your habits will suffocate. But if you surround yourself with people who push themselves, who believe in improvement, who support positive change, their belief begins transferring to you. That's why communities, groups, or even online environments can play a massive role in habit building. When you're part of something bigger, your belief gets amplified. Visualization and affirmations are also strong identity builders. When you imagine yourself already living the life you want, confident, disciplined, focused, your brain begins forming neural pathways aligned with that identity. Athletes do this, entrepreneurs do this, performers do this. They see the future version of themselves so clearly that their present actions naturally move toward it. Affirmations work the same way. When repeated consistently, they reprogram your subconscious mind and help you believe in the identity you're building. But the most important part of belief is proving things to yourself through action. You don't need massive wins to build belief. You just need consistent ones. When you show up for yourself again and again, something shifts inside you. You stop doubting your ability to change. You stop hesitating. You stop relying on motivation. You begin trusting yourself. And that trust becomes the foundation of every new habit. When belief and identity align with your habits, transformation becomes not just possible but natural. You no longer feel like you're fighting against your own mind. Instead, your mind becomes your partner in growth. And at that point, your habits stop being something you do and start becoming who you are. When you understand belief and identity, the next realization is that habits don't just shape the person. They shape entire lives, careers, relationships, and even societies. The world you experience every day is the result of countless habits repeating themselves at personal, professional, and cultural levels. And once you learn how to apply the power of habits in real-life situations, you begin to unlock possibilities you never imagined. Let's start with personal life. Your health, your finances, your mindset, your confidence, all of these are built on small daily behaviors. The habit of saving a little every month can create financial security. The habit of reading can expand your perspective. The habit of exercising can strengthen discipline and self-respect. Even the way you talk to yourself becomes a habit. Negative self-talk forms a loop that drains your confidence, while positive reinforcement creates a cycle that fuels growth. The way you manage your mornings, spend your evenings, and react to challenges, all of these routines shape the quality of your life. Now think about your career. Successful people aren't just talented, they're consistent. Athletes don't become champions suddenly. They build routines that sharpen their skills. Entrepreneurs don't become successful overnight. They form habits of problem solving, learning, networking, and resilience. Even in corporate environments, habits define success. A company that encourages communication, creativity, and accountability builds a culture of excellence. In contrast, a company stuck in unproductive routines creates stress, burnout, and inefficiency. Just like individuals, organizations rise or fall based on the habits they repeat daily. Habits also influence society at a larger scale. Cultures are essentially shared routines passed from one generation to another. Communities develop habits of cooperation, celebration, discipline, or chaos. Cities become clean because people adopt habits of cleanliness. Countries grow because people develop habits of innovation and hard work. When enough individuals adopt positive habits, collective progress becomes inevitable. And when negative habits spread, entire systems suffer. This shows how deeply habits affect not only personal growth but the world around us. But the most inspiring part is this: small habits create big results. You don't need grand plans to change your life. You don't need to wait for motivation or the perfect moment. You just need one small routine done consistently. That single routine becomes the seed for transformation, not because it's big, but because it's repeated over time. Repetition turns into momentum. Momentum turns into identity, and identity turns into destiny. At the end of the day, the power of habit is not about controlling every second of your life. It's about understanding the invisible forces shaping your behavior. When you take conscious control of even a few key habits, your life begins to move in the direction you choose. Your mind becomes clearer. Your actions become intentional. Your future becomes predictable. And slowly, with every repeated behavior, you build a life that reflects your true potential. So if you've made it this far, remember this: change doesn't happen in a moment. It happens in the daily choices you repeat. Master your habits and you master your life. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more detailed audiobook-style insights like this, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to my channel